This meeting is being recorded.
All right, thank you everyone for joining us tonight for our parent informational meeting. This month we're going to be sharing information about the personal finance class at the high school, which is a graduation requirement. This meeting is being recorded so we can share it via the Wednesday communication and newsletters. My name is Max Winke. I am a third grade teacher at WCSD at the elementary school. I am also serving this semester as a practicum student for my curriculum director license. So I'm working closely with Peg Mishler this semester.
Okay.
All right.
Hi.
I am.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll go quick. I'm Peg Mishler. I'm the director of learning here. And Max had said he is helping me out this semester. And I'm excited to have Heather here tonight with us because I know parents have a lot of questions about the personal finance.
Hi there. I'm Heather Kontos, and I teach the personal finance class here at the high school. And I just wanted to take this opportunity to share with all of you what the personal finance class is and what it's all about and what your children are learning when they're in this this course at the high school. So let's see, Peg, if you want to go ahead and jump to the personal finance intro, that next page.
Sure. I'm not sure if Peggy Larson has the volume on, but she is here too. She's our district administrator, but I think we're having some technical difficulties.
Okay, thank you. All right, so personal finance, Peg came to me and said, hey, can we do this conversation for the district? Because a lot of people have questions about if their children are learning some really vital life skills pertaining to finance. And when she was talking to me about that, I was like, well, that's what we teach. That's everything that's in our personal finance class. So I'm going to give you guys just a little overview of what that looks like. So our class at Personal Finance, it is a one semester class and it is required for graduation. So every junior or senior takes it. And we are also a dual credit class through Fox Valley Technical College. So all the standards that we're following are set by FETC. Any student who joins FETC gets free transcripted credits, and they save money if they want to go to FETC. And Peg, can you go back just one slide? Thanks. I wanted to show you guys one of the big questions that I get is how does the grading work with this? So I just wanted to show you real quick. Peg, if you click that syllabus, you should be able to bring up the document. Yep, if you scroll down past this page, I believe it's the very next page. Yep, here it is. So just so you are aware, when we are grading at the high school level, it is the target-based grading. So we're using the learning targets, but they correlate with what FETC curriculum standards require. And the grade that your child would get at the high school is the target grade. So we're following the scale score average that the high school has. And then FETC grading, I've given all of you in Google Classroom and all of the students the average, how it matches up. So you can see how the scale score average in Winneconne matches up with what the grading scale is at FETC. So there's no question of what grade you would be getting on the FETC transcript. So I just wanted to clarify that in case anybody was confused. So there's a whole lot of stuff that we learn in personal finance. If we go ahead and go to the next slide, yep, here are our big ideas. So the target that we come back to over and over and over and over and over again is how do you actually use financial resources to make independent decisions? Because I tell all the students, this is like Adulting 101. How do you actually make choices that are going to help set you up for a good future? So we run through how to actually set goals. We are actually right now finishing up our budgeting unit. And then we talk about taxes, all sorts of banking, investments, credit, and insurance. And so I'll go briefly through each of those because I went ahead and put all of the success criteria in on the slides here. So if we go to the next one. Okay, so this is the target that we cover every single time. So some examples of this. So the target says analyze financial information and make financial decisions. So I might give students an article that gives an opinion about something we've learned. And I ask them to give their opinion and support it based on what they've learned in the unit. Or for the banking unit, I've given them actual bank information about different types of checking accounts. And then they have to state which checking account would work best for them and why. In the budgeting unit, I just gave their question today for this, that they're going to be explaining strategies that teenagers might use for budgeting effectively that they think would work for people their age. And so it's really asking them to think through what they've learned. So that comes across every unit. All right, the SMART goals, basically we're looking at, do they understand how to write a goal that is financial, and do they understand how to include the important information within it, like what's the goal for, how much is it going to cost, what's your plan, what trade-offs would you have to make, and how long are you going to give yourself? Those are the basic elements of a SMART goal. And then budgeting. I'm not going to read through everything that's on here because that would get a little bit much, but just understand that we're going through specific types of budgets and talking through what are they and how do they work. So what are some different things that you do to try and set up a budget so that they get an idea of different ideas that they can use. And then I specifically ask them to create what's called a zero-based budget, which basically says take your monthly net income, figure out where every single dollar of your budget is going. And then at the end, you should have zero money left over so that you're not spending money that's left over. You have everything accounted for. And you may recognize some of these ideas, those of you who like Dave Ramsey, because we use a variety of resources in this class. Thanks so much to Red's Piggly Wiggly. They have donated the Ramsey Education, their Foundations for Personal Finance course to us. So we use a lot of that material. I also use a lot of Next Generation Personal Finance, which is an online course that's all free. And so I use a lot of that along with the materials that FBTC has provided. And then we get into taxes. And we really look at two parts of taxes. One is, do they understand their pay stubs? So do they understand what all those taxes are? Do they know how to check their FICA taxes? Do they understand why the federal government and the state government take out taxes? And so that's our learning target of looking at payroll deductions. And then the next learning target, which is on our next slide, is the taxes that a lot of us tend to think of, and that is filing our income taxes. So the students learn all about what's a W-2 form, how do you fill out a W-4? I have them practice filling out a W-4 form, and we talk about the strategies for filling it out. We talk about what 1099 forms are and how that reports other income. And then they also get to go through an interactive where they practice filing a 1040 form. And so they learn what the questions mean that the government is asking. And then banking, we cover quite a bit. So we cover checking accounts. I know that a lot of people worry that our young students today don't know how to write a check, but we do go over how to write a check in case they ever have to. We talk about what to look at on a check if they're written a check. How do you know that it's written correctly? We talk about the ways that banking has evolved, and we go through an interactive of practicing using online banking and all the services that are provided for that. So how do you make transfers? How do you set up your automatic direct deposits? How do you manage looking at all of the debit accounts that you might have? And so we go through all of that, and they learn how to reconcile their bank statements. So they actually do learn how to balance their bank account. We go through what that looks like and how to actually check and make sure that what the bank is reporting is accurate. And then we go from checking accounts, we go into our next our next target. And then we have two different pieces to this. So time value of money, we look at how does interest work? So really, how do you earn interest on the money that's in the bank? How well do you actually earn money if inflation rates are high like they are right now? How does that cut into your earnings? And then how can you actually like estimate how much money you would have if your money were to grow either through compound interest or simple interest? And then we look at savings accounts specifically. What's the difference between a traditional savings account, a money market account, and a CD? And they learn how those work and how to choose among those for different scenarios. So depending on your use of your money, when you want access to it, how long you're going to have it in the bank, we learn when to identify which accounts might work best. Investing. My goal for the students with investment, because there's so much information, is to make sure that they at least know the basic types of investments, how they work, and be able to make some choices among them. So I kind of split up into what are the types of investments. So what's the difference between how buying and selling stocks works? What's a mutual fund? What's an index fund? How do bonds work? And then we talk about retirement accounts and what's the difference between a pension, a traditional IRA, a Roth IRA, and a 401k. And within that, we talk about how do you actually set those things up? I've had multiple students who are already investing in Roth IRAs or 401ks. And so I asked them to share their experiences. And all the students get to fill out an actual enrollment form for a 401k so they can see what kind of choices they would have to make and how that works. The second part of all of that is understanding the risks and returns. So obviously we want to make money, that's why we invest, but what are the risks that go along with that? And then I have them look at on a risk pyramid, where do things fit so they can make intelligent or informed decisions about how to differentiate between these different risks and returns, and also how to make their best choice for a portfolio and how to fit it together. Okay, credit is another big one. Students are pretty familiar with the idea of credit cards and they know what a loan is, but a lot of times they don't understand how all of that actually works or what the expectation is. So we talk about how do you actually get a loan? What are the criteria that a loan officer would look for? We look at how do you actually evaluate different people's information? Can you identify whether their loan application would even be accepted or not? And then we talk about the difference between a credit report and a credit score and talk about how those things work. We do talk a lot about whether students feel that it's a good idea to build credit at a young age or whether they think it's better to not. And it's always interesting, the discussions that we have, because some students are like, I could not trust myself with a credit card right now. There's no way I would do that. And then we have other students who are like, but I really want to start building that credit score because I want to get a house one day, or I know that one day I'm going to need to take out a loan. We do talk about student loans. And so they get a good overview of just how credit works and how to make choices with that. And then just kind of going into more detail, this second target just says, okay, well, what are the differences between types of loans? So what's the difference between I can never say that word, amortization loan, or a loan that's just simple interest. And then we do talk about payday loans and the danger of those and how you want to avoid getting into a debt spiral, and what the differences are between just some basics with just, I guess, vocabulary of how these different things work and what they are. Okay, and our last unit is insurance. And insurance, we really focus in primarily on auto insurance and a little bit with health insurance. And then we also cover just the basic of what the difference is between homeowners or renters. So I really want students to understand, primarily, we talk a lot about automobile insurance because so many of our students are driving, and all the students in this course are juniors and seniors. So a lot of them have just started to drive or are in the process of getting their license. And so we talk about, hey, what's actually required, and if there is a fender bender, what do you need to cover that? And they understand the difference between a premium and a deductible, and when do you actually owe money, and how does that, whose responsibility is it for some of these things? And what do you do if you're in an accident? What's the protocol? Like what's the first thing you do? And so we talk about, just like, if you're in that situation, how do you handle that? And then I do go over some basics of health insurance, and just what do we mean when we say that you have a copay, and what does health insurance cover, and how do you actually look at a policy and understand what some of the language means? What do they mean if something is an in-group doctor or not in-group, and what does that mean for coverage? And so we don't go into like huge detail because it's just such a complicated topic, but we do talk about the advantages to if you can get insurance through your workplace and how that works a little bit. And we show them some of the different varieties of the types of insurance. And then last but not least, how do you actually choose between different insurances? And then if we go to the next slide, I should say, how do you actually protect your estate? And I'll be honest, this one, it's usually at the end of the semester. We don't usually get into it as much. And quite honestly, a lot of high school students are not really interested in learning this at this point, but we do cover just the basics of what's the difference between a will, what's a living will, what's a trust, and what's a power of attorney, so that they at least understand some of that language and have some knowledge about it. And those are all the things that are covered in one semester in personal finance. And I guess, yeah, I would leave it open to any questions that anybody has, or any questions even that Peg or Dr. Larson might have had as I was going through this.
All right, for the question and answer session, we're going to start by saying thank you to those who are watching this at a later time, the recording. For the sake of the recording, we're going to go ahead and stop that portion now so that folks who are with us here can ask and answer questions and not be on the recording. So thank you again to all those who are watching later, and we'll go ahead and stop the recording now, and you can ask any questions that you might have.